is a pattern. Okay, now we gave an adjustment, and this reading changed. This one reduced, and this one totally went away. Now the patient comes back the next day. The reading is exactly this way. Is it this way? No. But now we have two readings that are exactly alike. What do we have now? As far as I'm concerned, we have a new pattern. Should we go back and adjust the vertebra that took away the other pattern? No. See, in our work, we proved this, that there are subluxations, there are compensations, there's fixations, and there's misalignments. And a subluxation can change a misalignment, it can change a compensation, it can change a fixation. But one subluxation cannot unlock another subluxation. In other words, if you have 5 subluxations in this body, you have to adjust 5 different vertebrae. And if you use this instrument, scientifically, you would find out that when you adjusted the next segment, another one of the cold spots would go away. And then if this stayed, what would we have? We would have a new pattern. And then if this stayed, we now have another new pattern. So my way of looking at instrumentation is exactly the same way it was when I went to Palmer College. But when I went to Palmer College, we was told there could only be one subluxation in the body. And that subluxation was at the atlas or axis. You had 2 choices.
When you get a new pattern like that, then do you go off, you know, a subluxation affects the whole spine, and do you revisualize every time you get a new pattern, or do you
well, see, basically, I don't practice the way I have to teach you. I have to teach you a way to practice like I practiced 10 years ago. Instrumentation was much more important to me 10 years ago than it is today. It's just as important to me, but it's not as important for me to keep this close a line on it. All I'm interested now is I want to get that person to a straight line within 1 degree from top to bottom. And I'll get him there, but see, I used to only adjust 1 segment a day. Today, I will try to adjust everything that I know is wrong with you and get rid of all of the patterns at the same time. So I really never go through this type of situation. This is the type of situation that you have to go with because you don't have the sophisticated type equipment I do. You're starting out in practice, you're in student clinic, you're going to have to go with this. But in student school, they expect you to be more conservative. They don't want you adjusting 5 or 6 things at a time anyhow. You have to adjust 1 and sit back and wait. And then adjust something else. Yes?
So are you saying when you have like the 4 breaks, that's pre, and then you adjust them, and you said 1 disappears and 1 is reduced?
Yeah.
And then they come in a week later, and it's the same pattern, 1's reduced, 1 is gone?
You have a new pattern.
And that's the new pattern, and then you don't adjust?
No, you go to the next vertebra.
Okay.
See, you should pick out all the subluxations that you suspect, and then you should rank them in order of when they occurred and the severity of them. See? And you should adjust backwards. You should adjust the subluxations that happen last first. And the ones that happen first, last. Now see, in my office, that'll all be done in 1 day. But in your office, see, here's what you've got to do. Things that cause pain are usually not chronic subluxations. See, when a subluxation first happened, see, I look at acute and chronic two different ways. An acute subluxation is one that just happened. See, you fell down the steps and you cut your head. You're in an acute condition. You are in an emergency type condition. What's the first thing they want to do? They want to stop the bleeding. Because if they don't stop your bleeding, then whatever's fractured doesn't matter. So you have to do first things first. You would stop the bleeding, then you would x-ray, see, for fractures. So in chiropractic, you don't have people come in bleeding, but you have someone that was hit with a car. You have someone that hurt their back at work. You shouldn't be worrying about their asthma. You should be worrying about their sugar diabetes. You should be worried about getting rid of that pain. Once you get rid of their pain, it becomes very, very easy for you to educate a person. You should never try to educate a person the very first day you see them. I mean, that's ridiculous. See, all you have to do in chiropractic practice is walk in another man's shoes. Okay, you walk in an office like that and you say, Doc, I just fell down a pair of steps and boy, I can't turn my head. Well, the first thing I want you to do is read this book. Yeah, that's the first thing you want to do. And then we're going to put you over here in a room and show you a movie. You know, no. Nobody in his right mind is interested in that. Then you wonder why people don't like it. The thing is, you want to get him out of pain. And then say, before you come back next time, I want you to read this book. See? And then if you want to show him a movie or something, fine. But that's when you start educating them. Because you've already sold them on the fact that you know what you're doing. What do I care how smart you are? You know, I always like to tell the story about when I went to an attorney's office and I was in some trouble with the Security and Exchange Commission. The first thing he did was scare me. He wanted to tell me how important he was. What a big shot he was. And he was going to be my defender. But that wasn't what I was interested in. I was interested in, do we have a solution to this problem? I could care less that he had this big office and he was such a great man. I was scared. I had a problem. I wanted to know if he had an answer. That's all. So when a patient comes into your office, they have a problem. Do you have an answer? They don't care how you arrived at that answer. They want to know, do you have an answer? Now, after you have an answer, and you prove that you have come up with that answer better than anyone else ever has in your life, then they're sold on you. Now it's time for you to sit down and educate them. You know, the reason you got this bad back was because you've had trouble in your spine for a long time. Now we're going to go back and find out how long, and we're going to check this out. See? Then we have a whole different way that we look at subluxation. There's 3 types of subluxation: chronic, subacute, and acute. Now I lay them out in when it happened during their life. Anything that happens after the age of 24, even if it's 10 years old, in one word you'd be calling it chronic, but it's acute. An acute subluxation is one that the body accepts as an abnormality. Chronic and subacute subluxations, the body accepts them as normal because they happen during the growing stage. So in your growing stage, if you're learned that your normal range of motion is your backyard, that's as far as you're allowed to go, you accept that. There don't have to be a fence out there. You know that if you go over across that line, someone's going to bat you up alongside the head. There don't have to be a fence. You have to get batted up alongside the head 1 or 2 times to find out that you're not supposed to do that. You know, I had a collie dog that would never leave our yard. never left our yard. We had no fence. You know, this same collie dog knew she was allowed in the basement, but she was not allowed up the steps. That I was her master and I could stand at the top of them steps and call her, "You get up here now." She'd put her foot on that step and take it off like it was hot. Okay? If I wanted her upstairs, you know how to go get her? Down the basement, walk her up to the front door and let her in the front door. But that's the way it is. She was taught that she was not allowed upstairs. And the only way she knew how to get upstairs was to go up the basement steps. Never went up them. And the first time she went out of our yard, she got killed. And the reason she went out of our yard is I had an uncle that lived in our basement. He had an apartment in our basement. And he basically she lived with him. Because he would let her in his apartment. And when he died, she was so upset. It was unbelievable. And the kids, the school teachers was on strike, and the kids went across the street, and she wanted to be with somebody after he died. And she started across the street and got run over. But you know, she knew he was dying a week before he died. 1 week before he died, she would not go in his apartment. She just refused to go. And after they took him out in the hearse, I tried to drag her into his apartment. She won't go. But if the body gets subluxated at a very early age, and that vertebra has a range of motion, and that subluxation limits that range of motion, then the body accepts that as normal. And once it becomes a chronic, you know, you fall down the steps, you cry about it. You subluxate yourself. The crying and the hurting is the acute part of the subluxation. If that subluxation isn't corrected, the body accepts it as a normal condition, and that's the subluxations that kill people, because there's no pain involved with it. And it becomes a chronic subluxation, and it's the one that will eventually kill that person. Now, these are all things that could be patterns. Now, here you have two cold spots. You get rid of that cold spot. If that bottom spot stays, you have a new pattern. And you have to look someplace else to get that corrected. And if you go back and adjust the same vertebra that took that upper bump away from there, guess what's going to happen to you? Your pattern's going to come back and you're not going to get rid of it. The worst subluxation in the world, people, are chiropractic produced. Because they are done with intent. You know, never forget when we first started doing fifth cervical, you find a lot of cold spots in the fifth cervical area. And see, this is the type of stuff. It was all done, not because I was smart. It was because I was stupid. But I'd have a patient come in, and then have a reading like that. And I would adjust that fifth cervical, and that reading would clear out beautiful, like that. And the next day, the person would come back, and this is identical. I'd go in and adjust that fifth cervical again, and I'd never clear them out again. How many times you done that, Kenny?
Number, especially in the beginning.
And I mean, I'd be telling other people, don't adjust where the cold spots is. But it's right at that. You have this bad fifth cervical subluxation, and when you cleared them out so good yesterday with it, you think, oh, I'll clear them out again. Yeah. And then what? See, this here is the fifth cervical pattern. This is something else. It could have been an atlas, it could have been an axis, it could have been anything. But this is where we learned these lessons. It wasn't that we sat down and tried to prove something. We sat down and disproved everything. And then we had to go back and figure this out. Why would that bump go away good yesterday? It won't go away today. And then, when you take the post reading after that adjustment, this happens. Now you got everything you took away and a little extra. That's like going to the bank with $1 and coming out with $5. Okay?
But there's a change.
Yeah, see? And people would call it a change. See, now, if you are living with that old theory, you adjust this person. And if I ask you this question, Laura, did I make a change? Yes, I made a change. But see, every change that we made, we accepted as being what? Good. Because all they wanted was a change. But, if I asked you, which reading would you rather have? Basically, I think I'd rather have that one. See? So see what happens when you adjust. You can change the body's balance. So that's why chiropractic is so efficient in the crudest forms. See, let's say that this is health. This is a headache. See? Now I adjust this. Look at this, good doctor. This is health. This is a headache. I adjust. The headache's gone. See? Now I'm getting sugar diabetes. Now, it might take me 3 years to get sugar diabetes from this new position. See? Who caused it? The guy who adjusted this. So it comes down that most chiropractors basically just exchange symptoms. And I've done this for years. I mean, you have a patient come in, you adjust them, and all their headaches go away. And 3 months later, you see them on the street, how you doing? Oh, I ain't had a headache since I saw you, doc. Man, you're great. But I just had gallbladder surgery. I just had a hysterectomy. But doc, I'll tell you, man, you're great. See? Because I took away a symptom. But I would stand back there and think, now, if our stuff works, and when I correct the subluxation, I'm supposed to free this person's life up. Now they have all these symptoms. Why? Well, the thing was, is you did something like that. You changed their balance. Now, during this time in here where they're getting rid of one symptom and getting another one, they'll be 100% asymptomatic. But if you don't totally correct them, they're just going to go from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. So what are they doing? They're dying a little bit more comfortable. And that's exactly what medicine's job is in life. To let people die a little bit more comfortable. How many times have you heard it? Just keep my mother comfortable. You know, we know my mother's dying. Just keep her comfortable. How about the hell with that? I know my mother's dying. Let's see if we can make her live again. See, that's what we want to do. Now, anytime you get a real sharp break, see, keep in mind that subluxations just don't affect one vertebra. So very seldom are you going to get this. If you get this technique, somebody's either jumped a necklace, jumped a bra. You can't jump things. The instrument is so fast that it picks up any change. So if you just jump a little thin necklace, that instrument's going to pick up a break. But it won't be that smooth, gradual breaks like I'm showing you over here that cover 3 or 4 vertebrae. It'll be... And if you see one right at the top, the person's either let hair get under the instrument or the head's wet. Very seldom you see real sharp breaks like that, unless it's a technique. So anytime you see a sharp break, like if you come up the spine, there's a real bad pimple or something in the spine, If you read right over that, you're going to get a flick to the right. You're going to get some heat in there. But that's strictly, so with a one probe instrument, if you have a scar, what type of temperature you're going to get from a scar, people? You're going to get a cold temperature. You're going to get a cold temperature from scar tissue. There's very little. So you try and stay away from that type of stuff. Now you get some of these guys in that look like a grizzly bear. You have to part their hair up their back and go in the pack, see? Because these things all affect this. Now that's basically all there is to instrumentation. Instrumentation is a matter of getting your reading down and make them the same length and try to get consistency. Make sure that when you read the atlas that you're reading the same area. And the three things you want to accomplish is number one, get rid of patterns. You want to get rid of patterns. You want a straight line, relatively speaking, within 1 degree from top to bottom. And you want that overall temperature to come back in line. So that's basically all there is to it. You want the temperature to be around 93.5, relatively straight. You want to get rid of patterns. That's what you want to accomplish. Yes?
Can you use a particular pattern to tell you when a particular subluxation comes back?
On a certain person. Like if this person here, if that pattern came back, then chances are your fifth cervical is going to clear it out again. If this is an axis reading, when that reading comes back, yes, there are patterns for certain vertebrae. And if you work with this instrument right, that's how I did mine. I set up a pattern for each vertebra. And whenever that pattern is back, even years later, you can bet that same vertebra is in trouble.
When you went from the C5 and then you got the other pattern, I know you don't do it now, but would you recommend that we re-X-ray because you got a
Well,
pattern, or can
you
do it off
should
the
pick
old
your
X-ray?
listings. Like when you first take an X-ray, you can pick out 4 or 5 listings right then. The only time you'd have to re-X-ray is say you picked out 3 listings, you established 3 patterns, and you corrected all of them, and now you have a new pattern. Now it's time to go in and see what changes you made. See, as the body corrects, it will change. And I want to tell you something. Sometimes when the spine is correcting, there's a state where it'll look worse than when you started. I'll show you the exact example of that, where we corrected a 6th cervical. When the 3rd cervical subluxation came up, the spine looked worse than it did when they had the 6th cervical subluxation. Because as the 6th cervical went back, the 3rd cervical became, relatively speaking, kyphotic. It was over here all the time, but when the 6th and everything else went back, it didn't go. So, as the lower cervicals corrected, relatively speaking, the upper cervicals looked worse. But they were still where they were. See? Like you're in that seat, but if I take everybody else away from you, then your circumstances are different. And I'll show you a prime example of that, where we did a 6th, then we did a 3rd, then we had to do a 1st. All 3 of them were probably there. But sometimes one subluxation will hide another one. You know. Like you can have a PIIN of the pelvis, and when you first look at the person, it looks strictly PI. After you take the PI out, you'll find some IN in there. So that's not unusual. See, but if the body's not moving, then there's no changes being made. Now, X-ray is by far a chiropractor's best source of information. But you have to keep in mind, static X-rays are just about totally worthless. They give you misalignments is all they give you. Now, of course, for 23 years, that's all I used. Now, see, static X-rays are moving X-rays once you take flexion and extension and compare them to your flat lateral. So this is what, as far as I'm concerned, this is the most fantastic piece of equipment that was ever brought into chiropractic right here. This is the Continental X-ray video X-ray machine all put in one. This thing is a fantastic piece of equipment. It's a 300/125 X-ray unit. It's a 5 MA 125 kVp fluoroscopy unit. But we basically don't use any more than a 1/4 to 1 MA with our X-rays. It's very versatile. Whenever you buy an X-ray machine, people, you do not want to buy a piece of medical equipment that has been transformed to be used for chiropractors. See, medical doctors care nothing about placement. Nothing at all about placement. They are looking for fractures, dislocations, and pathologies. Now, you can look for fractures, pathologies, dislocations, but you're going to look for the thing you're interested in, and that's subluxation. So you're going one step farther than they do. So placement becomes very, very important to you. You should always have an X-ray machine that will conform to the patient. You should never try to make the patient conform to the X-ray. So you want an X-ray that moves. And another thing, remember this, an X-ray machine is nothing more than a big camera. You must be able to understand that something that's closer to that camera is going to look different than when it's far away from that camera. That turning and twisting, because X-rays are set up to only shoot one angle. Now the best angle is 90 degrees. Anything you want to look at, you should look at it 90 degrees. Anytime you vary the tube away from the bucket, distortion becomes a big part of what you're seeing. So our machine is actually fused at a 90-degree angle. But we can change our 90-degree angle to shoot at 55, but still, whatever we're hitting at 90 degrees. So we can take a base posterior with that instrument. We can do anything. You can turn it totally upside down, the other way, opposite of that, and use it for a bed for a baby, or an ankle, or anything like that you'd be looking for. And of course, the nice thing about this, I picked up a lot of fractures when other people missed them, because they'll usually take a native P and a lateral. With this, I start out and I just rotate. And I can get 10 or 15 shots, and sometimes when you do that, it opens up the fracture. Where when you're just taking straight shots, you can't see it. So, not that I'm looking for that many fractures, but if a patient comes in my office, I will always look at the area they're talking about. And you'd be surprised how you can pick up things that other people miss. Of course, we store our tapes, and we can go back over them, and we can play them back and forth. Here again, whenever you're dealing with a piece of machinery like this, you know, the tape decks that I have to use when I go out on the road, I can't get proper things. This machine here costs around $2,200. It's a commercial VCR. I mean, you can stop it, you can slow, take it back, you can speed it up, you can do all kinds of things with it you can't do with a $295 piece of equipment. And of course, that's Kenny Guzik's hand there. He's showing you that we can block down to one vertebra. We can just do one vertebra. And the machine has been through FDA, and not only has a collimator, but it has other stuff on it that protects the patient. No matter what type of X-ray machine you have, you should have a marker on it. Now that's just a regular seamstress tape, and we taped it to our machine. so that when you take a post X-ray, now this is what you ought to do in your office. I can't even say it's done in mine because I tell them, but what I tell them, what they do is a different thing. You should keep track of the MA you use. You should keep track of the KVP you use. You should keep track how far the instrument was off the floor when you took the pre-X-ray. So when you take the post-X-ray, you can duplicate it. I mean, these things should just be standard. If I went back and pulled the X-rays that I took back in 1959, you'd find out the quality is still there. They didn't fade out. They didn't turn brown. They didn't do anything